All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Dave Carmody, West Covina City Manager. Very happy to see this turnout tonight. Really heartened by it. Sherry, would you please begin and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? A lot of people here tonight. I'd like to introduce quickly, if I may, Councilmember Brian Tabatbai, our Acting Chief of Police, Ken Plunkett, our Assistant City Manager, Roxanne Lerma, our Finance Director, Stephanie, Assistant Finance Director, Maria Luisa, Karen Coe, Assistant City Manager, Paulina Morales, and our Assistant City Clerk, Lisa Sherrick. We have a little outline for tonight's meeting. We'd like to review that with you. Our most important part of this evening is to get your comments tonight, and so I'm really appreciative that you all took the time to come. Just a word about decorum. We're going to have some tonight. If this meeting is disrupted, I'm going to ask who's ever disruptive to leave, and let's just make sure that doesn't occur. That's not our expectation tonight, and I'm very glad you all came. We'll begin with an overview.
For those who would like to participate in tonight's polling after the discussion of each goal, you can go onto the website and type in pollev.com/idealfog205. From there, you'll have the opportunity to participate in the polling. And for those who are joining virtually, you can visit bit.ly or bit.ly/WCCCBG 2023 for a copy of the handout so you can refer to it during the meeting. Sorry. And I wanted to also add that the link is also available on the calendar as well.
We wanted to review the major goals for the upcoming budget season. We are now in the midst of preparing the budget that will take effect starting July 1st. So we've got 9 goals, and perhaps some people here tonight will suggest other goals, and we would really welcome that as well. Protect public safety, address homeless issues, enhance the city image and effectiveness, maintain good intergovernmental relations, achieve fiscal sustainability and financial stability, a well-planned community, expand economic development opportunities, an accessible community, and a creative and active community. We're hopeful that tonight, those of you that are here will help us prioritize the city services that are of importance to you.
So good evening. So if you'd like to participate, we'd like to poll the audience members and see what are your top 3 goals that you want to or that you believe the city should prioritize. So if you could go to your phones and go to pollev.com/ideafog205. Now you'll be able to categorize or list the goals that are listed above in the order that you think. You use the arrows, and if you need help, one of us can go help you, but you'll use the arrows to move a goal up or down, and then we'll be able to share the results with the audience members. So we'll give you 30 seconds to get that filled out.
Jerry. We'd also like to assume you have a voice and that you wouldn't be reticent to share your opinions with us. We don't need the fancy tools, but they're available to us, and we'd like to try that tonight. But you're welcome to vote nominally through a raising of your hand. Please.
I would vote for my important ones, which is 1, 2, and 5.
So, protect public safety, address the homeless issues, and achieve fiscal sustainability and financial stability. Thank you for that. Jerry?
I agree.
Those 3. Vicki? Don? Okay. I'm starting to get a sense of the room. Jim? Anyone need the microphone? Can you hear it, Jim?
Anyway, anybody knows me, I'll put fiscal sustainability and stability on top. But I agree with the other two. Public safety, I agree with Tim Ford.
Thank you for that. 1, 2, and a creative and active community. Karen, she's asking if you only want 3.
Well, we are asking you to list them in order. Apologize.
Yes, please.
The one that's online is the budget survey, so this is the goals. So they're slightly different.
We certainly will.
I'm going to go with 1, and then the financial.
Thank you for that. Well, thank you, Councilman. We said protect public safety.
Public safety, financial stability, and creative and active community.
Thank you.
Some of you did participate through the phone app. And so this is the results from those that submitted through your phone. Oh, yes. So the results are public safety came in first, achieve fiscal sustainability and financial stability came in second, followed by homeless issues. A creative and active community came in fourth. A well-planned community came in fifth. And then tying at 6 is maintain good intergovernmental relations and expand economic development opportunities. And then in last at 8th place is enhance city image and accessible community. Those are both tied at 8th.
Thank you, Paulina. Before we move again, JD, you had a thought? Yeah, you're going to go for all of them. That's the problem with goal setting. It's very helpful if we can know what priorities are. And I think I've got a sense of this survey and a sense of the room. Yes, sir. Brian.
So part of the presentation is now we got the 9 categories. We're going to go dive deeper into each category, and then that's when you can prioritize. But thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Are we ready to move into the categories? All right, let's do. We've got a couple pages of priorities under protect public safety. And these are listed on the handout. When we talk about continuing to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, there is some administration work that's going on. We're continuing to negotiate contracts with Fulgent and with a private vendor in Shadow Oak Park and with the county for the availability of testing and vaccination as necessary. There's not major effort going on in any operating department now under that goal. B, the interlocal agreements. Fire chief believes that it's time for us to begin to look beyond our own borders and to put in place written agreements with the cities of Laverne, Manhattan Beach, and San Gabriel We've been informally trading equipment with those independent city departments. When one of our ambulances goes down and we need some rolling stock, we've been sharing and vice versa. But I think it's well that we go beyond just a casual phone call and put proper agreements in place with joint indemnification, et cetera. The next one in that category is slightly different. There's a distinction with that difference. Negotiate and execute an automatic aid agreement with Los Angeles County Fire Department. Again, that relationship has been run through the dispatch center and is quite informal, but I think it's probably time for us to formally memorialize what those relationships are. The city has, I'm sorry, Ollie, you had wanted to make a point? Those are independent cities that have been cooperative with us, and they are independent cities. In this county, the independent cities are becoming rare and precious, and those are cities that have resources that we've been sharing. We provide them when they have a need, and vice versa. A number of cities in this county have direct contracts with the LA County Fire Protection District, and of the independent cities, there seems to be a cooperative spirit. Some of those cities run with our department when called to mutual aid responses. They'll form up a strike team, and we've been consistently sending resources as part of a strike team. It was interesting to me last year, the governor got all the city managers in the state on a phone call and said, I need you all to send twice what you can, or what you're now sending. And my response to that was, no can do. Because when you end up sending resources, it means you have to backfill your own houses, and that really affects your local situation and the families of your firefighters. And they're part of the team, but I think that system is sometimes bent to being broken. We seem to be in a never-ending, wildfire season, et cetera, here in California. So we've got to be careful about that. Anybody have questions about any of these other ones before we go to the next batch of them? Ready? Okay. Again, these are all, hi Steve, important public safety goals. Body-worn cameras. We're about to issue an RFP, and we initially thought that we could fund at least the first couple years of this using some asset forfeiture money. That's still the thinking. There are going to be some ongoing expenditures once that asset forfeiture money is used in the first 2 fiscal years. There's going to be an ongoing expense, and our purchasing procedures require us to go through this RFP process. Initially, it was, I think, thought that one of these companies that specializes in this, that quite a few of the cities use, would be the one of choice. But we're no longer living in a sole source world, and so we're going to respect our RFP process and seek out formal bids. We'll probably have that up and running. Acting Chief, you can correct me if I'm saying anything incorrectly here, but I think we will have completed that RFP process, have a council consideration of a contract, and have that up and running by July 1st. This world we're living in, these body cameras are no longer nice to have. We really need to keep this as a highest priority. Questions or comments about any other items on this list? Sherry? It is staggering what these new pieces of equipment cost. We are now having them build a ladder truck quint for us at the Pierce factory in Appleton, and it's going to come in at about $1.8 million. Million with an M. And so a standard pumper engine, I mean just 700 gallons of water and a Detroit 6 Series diesel engine, and get me there, could be $350,000 or more. It is just crazy to me what these things cost, but that's what they cost. We've listed these apparatus here, not because what we're doing here is anything unique. We're still buying what I regard as conventional equipment. We're not going all electric in that fleet, I can tell you. But we are going to need to just continue to pay attention. One of the thoughts the fire chief had that I thought was a really good one was we should place an order now for a 2026 delivery of one of these additional pumpers, because we can't wait till they get to the end of their useful life and then act surprised and then have a 18-month lead time to acquire. So I'm appreciative of that management approach. We're with County Animal Care and Control. I've heard some mild interest in having veterinarian and vaccination services in parks. We're gonna look into that and try and get on their calendar. All their calendar's pretty full. Any questions or comments about any of these public safety goals? You never make money on animal control. We're not breaking even. One thing we need to do is canvass. The idea that people will voluntarily send in licenses is maybe a city manager's dream, but the reality is, if you're not canvassing every couple of years, you're missing a lot of revenue. And so we need to get them back. The county is not yet in the business, again, post-COVID, of doing that, but we're going to continue to request it of them. I'm sorry, sir, I don't know your name. I'm embarrassed by that. Mario, thank you for being here. We're with the LA County. Yes, sir. Anybody else? Comments, questions, other ideas under public safety category? JD, I'm sorry. We got one comment here, and we'll go to you. I don't know, so I'm going to ask the acting chief of police to answer if he can. Excuse me, Ken, they can't hear. Do you mind?
Oh, I got to put the mic in my mouth. JD raised a concern. I don't have a good answer for his question, so I will look into his concern and I'll get back to him.
Thank you for that. We haven't talked about that tonight, although that's something that's still being worked on. The California Department of Public Health has been meeting with us every 2 or 3 weeks for, a year and a half now, a long time. And one of the internal processes that the CDPH is going through is they need to issue regulations by which municipalities wanting to establish a health department would follow. It's something that hasn't been done in this county, in this state, I guess, for 100 years. Initially, they thought under the CDPH director, he would issue emergency regulations, and then people could comment on those, and then jurisdictions could apply. That conversation has worked its way all around the state capitol, and they've come to the conclusion that they're not going to do this on an emergency basis. They're going to issue formal regulations. There's going to be 1 or 2 45-plus day public comment periods, and the public and every other jurisdiction in the state will be welcome to comment on that process. I would be very surprised if that would all be concluded in time to even consider an independent city health department for the next fiscal year. It's going to take some time for them to issue those regulations, and they haven't done so yet. I know they're working on them. We're not privy to it, nor should we be until it's completely public. But I can't imagine they're going to get that done in time for any jurisdiction to be able to stand up its own health department by July the 1st. One idea that the CDPH representatives have had is that perhaps jurisdictions, once that process is concluded, could consider applying to be a provisional department, to stand up just some of the services, to engage in a community health needs assessment, community health improvement program, to stand up the environmental health piece, which is the inspections of the cafeterias and the restaurants and all of that. But we don't know yet what that's going to look like, and once we do know, it'll be shared publicly. John. Yeah, I'll repeat if that's okay.
Is there any place that any of these things that may happen, or state, provision, only doing pieces, what it's going to cost? I mean, I have, if we're going to do restaurant inspection, what's the cost to do that? Because what good is it to go through this if you do a cost analysis and it says, it's going to cost us $500 a restaurant. How many does it?
Yeah. The question is, what's the cost? I would say this as regarding this sub-goal under Protect Public Safety. We tried to word it carefully, respecting that opinion, and we say, with due regard to general fund fiscal impacts, my sense is, what I've heard again and again, is people don't want there to be general fund impacts, and so those questions are going to have to be answered before the council could consider it.
Nobody has said, this is what it will cost to run a full health. This is where we can get the money from specific. And here's the cost that we ramp up. So you're telling me that we have gone into this for 2 years, and the answer is, I don't know. So the state can come out and say, okay, guys, open it tomorrow. You're all set to go. Then you're going to go, oh, we have to figure out how much it's going to cost us, if we can do it financially. Kind of backwards, isn't it?
I take your point, John. I do. I hear you. We don't know yet what services CDPH will allow municipalities to run, and once we do, then we can produce those numbers for consideration.
See, that's the thing about the process. What would it cost to have an entire department? And then you back off from there. Right now, there's nothing that says if they gave us the go ahead to have a department, this is what it's going to cost. This is where we'll get money. We say, we have people on council who say it's not going to cost. But you go to Covina, and they say there's millions coming out of our general fund. You have Long Beach, which has a sales tax that they'll have for years to fund their health department, and there's still an impact on the general fund. You go to Oakland, there's an impact on the general fund. So what are we doing that you can present to us that says this is why we will not have an impact on the general fund, why we're going to do it better, faster, cheaper? You're saying, well, once they approve it, then we'll figure out. Why are we spending millions of dollars on something that we don't even know if it's feasible? Because nobody's put paper, pencil to paper and said this is what it would cost to do it. 30-some years ago, when they went to close BKK, they said we're going to lose $5 million a year. The city manager at the time said, "Give me 2 years to find where we can get the money." Came up with it and said, "Here's where we're going to get the money. Let's close it." Right now, you're saying, "Well, if the current council was in charge, they'd say close, then we'll." And that's, unfortunately, that's what the direction the council.
John, I hear you. My sense of this room is I don't hear any people here advocating for a health department tonight. In fact, I heard the opposite. I think maybe succinctly said by Brian that he agrees with public safety and being a goal with the exception of the health department piece. Am I reading that correctly? Okay, I hear you.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know whether it's for or against it. I don't know what the cost is going to be and if we can afford it.
I well appreciate you're a numbers guy and you want to see the numbers. I got you. Brian. You're soft-spoken. Do you mind?
One of the thoughts that I had under public safety was I would love to see a specific objective associated with BKK. It's going nowhere. BKK is with us for our grandchildren's lifetime. We're fortunate. A lot of the requirements to keep BKK safe are federal requirements and state requirements. However, the city entered into certain agreements associated with BKK. It hasn't completed those agreements, and that's overdue. And I would really like to see, and our group Livable West Covina would like to see, a specific objective for the city to come into compliance with the agreements that it made with parties associated with BKK. So that's my input on public safety.
Okay, thank you for that. Jerry.
Hi. In public safety, my priorities would be monitor, manage, and as appropriate, reduce fire department overtime expenditures because that is impacting so much of the budget. And I don't think that's right. I think they should be able to be fully staffed and stay within their budget. My second, and to me it's as equal, would be to acquire and implement the use of police department body-worn cameras. I don't think these officers should be out on the street without a camera. And I think the fire department over time, if it's managed, can pay for those cameras.
Thank you, Jerry. Those cameras are going to cost in the range of annualized $250,000 a year once we get it going. They're quite important. Annually, each year. Yes. I'm sorry, Brian. Do you mind holding that thought just for a second? The gentleman behind you.
The training I received allowed me to understand the county was liable for any actions that I made. The best advice I ever got. Gentlemen, if you're coming to take money home to pay for a family, the first information I'm going to give you is the Berkeley Law School has a 1-800 number. You report any officer misconduct, we give you a lawyer for free. If you take a look at the use of the taser in the last 6 months, I would like our department to review the use of a taser, because it's not what you training says, it's the way the attorney is going to defend the actions of our officers and what we're liable for based upon what the jury thinks is accessible use of force. The West Covina Police Department has to take the initiative to review officer training as it relates to the police of force. Everything has changed in the last 6 months.
Thank you.
I noticed it's not on here, but I was just curious about the new station that's supposed to be being built. Is that started? What's going on with that?
The question about the need for a new Fire Station 1. Existing Fire Station 1 has been closed because it was substandard. That was a recommendation and a finding of our insurance authority.
Right.
We've been domiciling our crew in rented trailers behind the old city shop building. It's working, but it's obviously not a modern fire station. The city has entered into an exclusive negotiation agreement with a developer for that entire property, which means that Fire Station 1 would need to be relocated. One of the considerations that's going to come to this room is the idea about building a new fire station on this Civic Center campus. We don't have plans for that yet, but it's going to be prepared and going to be brought publicly for people to comment upon. We're now working with some of our partners on this campus about a secondary aspect of the use of this overall Civic Center for parking. The existing parking arrangement is set to expire, next June or October, I forget. But that's an agreement which was put in place, I think Richard Nixon was president when they struck that deal. And it's long past time for us to rethink it and for us to talk about who parks where and how much that costs. I think the siting of a new fire station on this campus is going to get wrapped up in that conversation. We've got some really nice parking available, down below here between this building and the freeway, and we've got a lot of capacity over at the parking structure. But looking forward, I'm not sure everybody's going to be able to park within 20 feet of their front door. We're going to need to do some things differently if we're going to add more uses on this campus. It'll be an interesting conversation, but we're not ready for it yet. We don't have plans in place to show.
Dave, if I may, just to let the audience know that that is one of our goals under number 3, enhance city image and effectiveness.
Are we ready to move on past public safety? I'm sorry, we're going to stay on public safety for a moment. I think everybody could hear, Vicki. The question is, what's wrong with the existing location? The existing location has served the city pretty well since the 1960s, or maybe before that, I don't know. Some consideration is now being given to selling that entire site for housing. And there's an exclusive negotiation agreement in place with the developer that will be negotiated between that developer and the city for some time and then brought back for consideration. But leaving the fire facility and the public works yard where they are is obviously an option, and that's something the city council will have to consider when that issue returns. Yes, please. You said Maria, right? No, Lisa, I'm sorry. I think you're exactly right. I think that's how we got here. And before we take the next step, I think we'll see what regulations the California Department of Public Health puts in front of us. And before any decision is made about standing up a health department, that and other factors would be considered. The purpose of it would obviously be to improve community health. During COVID, we had a number of opportunities to do better with the existing services. Everybody got overwhelmed and people suffered as a result of that. We do have underserved communities in West Covina, and affording them better access to health care is a major concern. Ready for some results? I forgot it. Oh, I'm sorry, JD. Question pertains to standards of coverage and service area for our fire department and the stations which serve the community. I think that the scientific way to answer that question, JD, would be for us to do a formal standards of coverage study. It's a study that would probably cost about $120,000. I can tell you now, we're not keeping national standard in terms of response times. And it's of concern. I think at some point the city's going to have to look at options. Having your own fire department comes at a cost. It's at some point, I think, going to become necessary to look at all options in the provision of the service, maybe a regional approach. I don't know what that would look like, but I think at some point it's going to need to be a conversation that occurs. I don't think we're quite ready for it yet, but it's on the horizon. Well, national standards get written by the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Administration. I think anecdotally we know when you have a structure fire that structure fire doubles in size every 5 minutes. So they want to put, wet stuff on red stuff within 5 or 6 minutes. Sometimes we're running 11 or 12 now. The majority of fire calls, though, have shifted to medicals. And all of that in terms of how quick is the response and how well-trained are the paramedics that serve is also wrapped up in those national standards. It's a really important conversation. At some point, I think the city's going to have it.
And
if I can interject real quick, the poll's active, so if you guys want to submit your answers, we're going to be closing it shortly.
I know I should talk. Still have it. I can take control. And you talk about response times for fire department, and I don't know if someone else is talking, but you keep adding houses, so that's just going to increase our response time. So we might need besides the fire station that we're going to replace, we possibly are going to need another fire station. I'm very pro-fire.
Thank you for that.
I wanted to make a comment about response time since
Please.
a while back I spent a lot of time on it. Actually, to me, the fundamental issue with response time is not where the stations are located, but what kind of equipment we have available in those locations. 85% of our calls now for fire services are for medical, and yet we have a very small percentage of our fire staff set up for medical. The vast majority of the firefighters are firefighters, not medical people, and they have fire engines. And we have, I believe, 5 fire engines and 1 ladder truck, and yet we only have 3 ambulances, which is totally out of proportion to the actual calls, which are 85% medical. And so response time gets really messed up when you have the wrong people in place to serve what is needed. So the analysis, to me, isn't about where the stations are located. It's about what kind of staff you have and what kind of equipment you have to have proper response time. And when the city was considering going with the county, their situation on the subject is much worse than the city's. They have a long-established protocol where everything is about fire engines and firefighters, and very little is devoted to medical. So it's the community's needs have changed dramatically, and I think any consideration of this subject needs to be based on what the community needs as opposed to what traditional firefighters want.
Thank you for that. On the question of fire protection and control master planning, response times, what's at risk and what are acceptable levels of risk, I think it would be well for us to spend a lot more time on that issue because we're continuing to do kind of what the city has always done or done for the past several decades. But I think it's an important topic, and maybe we could invite the fire chief to come to a meeting like this and begin to talk out some of those issues. I agree. We need to spend more time thinking about this issue. Not only has the community changed, but the number of 911 calls has gone way up. I think the calendar year just ended. We were within a few calls of cresting for the first time ever 10,000 911s for fire. So the volume of responses has gone way up. Well, I would have thought that a year ago. I don't think it now. I don't know.
Dave, I think you touched on a really excellent suggestion. There are certain topics that when they come up, they really lend themselves to meetings like this that are more of a discussion format, a bit more interactive and less 3 minutes of public comment, you're out of time, go sit down. And one of them would be the fire department. The fire department in terms of moving a station, the fire department in terms of moving to county, the fire department in terms of fire versus medical. Vince is an expert at that, and spending the time with the public to be able to hear directly from them and answer their questions, that would be time well spent.
I agree with a point Brian just made. On almost any topic, I really appreciate these kind of conversations. Somebody asked me today what I felt about tonight, and I said, I love these kind of meetings. I really do, because it's a chance for us to actually talk out some of these things and hear opinions, and I welcome it. I can see a whole number of issues kind of on the horizon here that would be really good to address in this kind of a venue. Should we have weekly street sweeping to get in compliance with NPDES? It's the one best management practice we have. But you go spending $600,000 on new street sweeping signs. What's the cost per curb mile to begin to sweep? What's the cost of enforcement? And I think having those conversations in a meeting like this on any one of these topics is a really good practice, and I would really encourage it. People find the time to come, and I appreciate everybody coming tonight. Yes, John. For one calendar year, I think we're 9,700, something like that. Well, I know you're a numbers guy, but I really believe the conversation needs to be around what's at risk and what are acceptable levels of risk, and then what resources do we apply to that. Okay.
So we have the results of the poll up, if we want to share.
Looks like body-worn cameras carries the day.
Yes, they do.
If there were more options, it would be lower.
I'm sorry. Can we ask JD to speak next, and then we'll keep going? Did you have a point you wanted to make?
Yeah, I do. Curiosity. Why is it that so many of these issues are not ran through? I see these commissions, I've attended some of them, and they don't seem to ever bring up any concerns of the community, brainstorm through them to our representatives, or take forward recommendations. Almost as
I mean, I take your point. Perhaps we could use our commissions in different and better ways. Yeah. All right, we're ready for address homeless issues. We had 5 here. The one that I think is perhaps entirely new is a little bold. The single-day homeless count census, we're setting as a goal that would be cut in half, that we'd reduce it from 112 to 50. Secure external funding, partner with cities on a regional basis, expand mental health services, increase our contract between the Department of Mental Health and the unhoused population. Anybody have anything to add to these homeless goals? Thoughts?
The poll is active.
It's active? Okay.
Garbage everywhere. You can't have this, and they're fine. They can't do anything. So I'm not blaming the police for this. Police have nothing, but more that they can do. Government that people have. They have rights to be there. They don't have rights around the area where they're taking and taking to the street. You're getting that coming into your housing tract. They leave excessive garbage, they pick up other places, and they leave it there too. You know, we're trying to we're meeting and help that out, start helping out enough with the homeless. And I don't know what else to do. If they don't want to go somewhere, what are we going to do? Have to leave them where they want to go. They're saying all this stuff they leave behind, you can't have that person there. You can go over and remove this stuff as long as there is something. That's correct. How many days can it sit there without anybody there?
You want me to come down? No, I'm being told I'm going to come down.
All right.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Brian. It seems to me that the animals are kind of running the zoo, and maybe that needs to change. We're the taxpayers. We're the ones that pay to have the city cleaned and kept up, and they're not. And I do understand that they have rights, but so do we.
I hear you.
Oh, it's not just West Covina. I get that. But West Covina is our responsibility. And I do think, though, that our numbers are a little bit inflated. We, as commissioners, we had a visit last month at our meeting on homelessness, and we were told that the actual unhoused in West Covina is currently at about 46. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but it's a good starting point if it is.
I'm going to ask our acting chief of police, put the spotlight on him and ask him to talk about homeless issues.
Yeah, that's right. It was his partner that was there.
Thanks.
All right. All right, thank you. Vicki, I'll go to your question first about the trash. So what we view as trash may not be considered trash to everybody, so we have to be very careful. There are specific rules. The law is very clear about giving people a reasonable amount of time to gather their belongings and move them. An analogy that we use that we've been given basically through the courts and through the process is if you leave your home for the day to go to appointments and do things, a reasonable amount of time, the expectation wouldn't be that you pack all your belongings in your car and take them with you. People who are experiencing homelessness, they have belongings that are meaningful to them, and we have to respect that. So sometimes when you see, homeless leave an area, their belongings may be left behind. And we do have to, per the law, give them a reasonable amount of time to move that. So oftentimes we'll mark their property and basically say, hey, we're going to give you, if it's a lot of property, it's reasonable that we give you a day to come back and get it. If it's not very much, it may be reasonable to give you a few hours to come back and pick it up. And then at that time, we can go back and remove property. There are clear distinctions between what is maybe trash. If it's just a empty paper cup that's on the ground, that may be different than somebody's belongings. But we have to be very careful about how we deal with that.
Do they have an allowance of how many carts they can have at one point? But my point is, the carts are stolen. That's stolen vehicle.
Those aren't their property.
Their car.
Yeah, laws have changed. You're right. There's got to be there's a bunch of laws that go into shopping carts and the requirements for businesses that maintain shopping carts, what has to be listed on the shopping cart. There has to be phone numbers. There has to be all kinds of requirements per the law. For us to there should be a number on it. There's not always a number on it. So when those things are removed, it ties our hand a bit. But how many carts they can have is, it's up to how many they can carry or move.
What happens if a private citizen removes their
Yeah, we got to be very careful. I can't make a suggestion on that. I'm just telling you, as the police department in the city, we have to follow the rules. There's laws in place to protect everybody, and here at the city and the police department, we follow those rules. So we're not. I wouldn't advocate for anybody to sneak up and take somebody's belongings and throw it away on their own. I couldn't advocate that. I think you're getting into a unreasonable length of time, right? And if you, I get it. You report it. We have to go out there. It's kind of like, unfortunately, you can equate it to a parked vehicle. You can't park a car for 72 hours. But maybe I shouldn't say this on live TV. But there's a game that's played, right? It's parked in this spot. And then we mark it, and they move it in this spot, and the clock starts over. I get your frustration. We're looking for solutions. Some of these things that we're expanding, we're trying to provide all the services that we possibly can to help get the homeless people back acclimated and into a housing situation. And we're dealing with the stuff that's left behind the best that we can.
I would like to say this. Our homeless team isn't here tonight, but I think they do a really good job. I think our homeless neighbors need to be wrapped with some services to get out of this posture they're in. If it's drug treatment, if it's housing, if it's mental health. I know our officers will tell you that they can contact a homeless individual multiple times and get told no. 13, 14, 15, sometimes the 17th inquiry leads to somebody saying, yes, I want some help. But it's not easy. It's not snap our fingers. Under the new Boise decision, it's not like we can do the move along. We're going to have to, as a community, find a way to get services to help these people solve some of their myriad of problems. Thank you for being here, Robert. I didn't see you earlier. Thanks for coming.
So for this category, I wanted to see if we could highlight La Cara. I know it's not specifically noted in the 5 action items, but the presentation that was given to us by the Hope team at our commissioners meeting was really informative, and they really highlighted the benefits that La Cara's had in the past year. So I know we haven't locked in any sort of funding source for the coming years, but as far as budget priorities, I think that should be specifically called out in one of those items, maybe item C. But the services that have been provided have helped reduce the strain on the police department as far as processing and helping the homeless out with resources.
Thank you for that comment. I think the city's pretty well served by Lakata. I think we could, in my opinion, if I ran the world, we could double their contract and get a lot more good use out of it. They're doing some good work for us. So thank you for that comment. Maybe we could rewrite some of this goals to have our thinking reflect that possibility.
Yeah, you could think big and go ahead and double it.
These meetings, nobody ever says cut something. I always get ads. I'm sorry, Sherry, go ahead.
Do you know about what the governor wrote about mental health and being able to be a conservator over these mentally ill? No, Governor Newsom of California.
I'm sorry, your point is... Well, Sherry, that's maybe an area I need to learn more. Thank you for the comment.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Robert, go ahead.
So the item A says secure external funding, including San Gabriel Valley Housing Trust and county homeless funds. So I agree with that, but I just was wondering if there could be more clarity on exactly what that means and if it has other components to it, because I know if we apply for those funds, we need to have some sort of plan in place, right?
Well, when we secure these external funds, they always come with strings. So you're saying you would like for us to secure other funds, but you want to be cautious about what we're buying with our money?
Not necessarily. I think that what I'm saying is there needs to be a little bit more teeth on that item, because the housing trust will only give you money if you have a plan in place. So my question is, what's our plan? Are we identifying locations for housing? How are we going to be attractive and make sure that we acquire those funds when we apply?
So you're supporting goal A, but you want more teeth, more specifics.
Right.
Okay, I hear you. JD, I'm sure.
The armory, which
I'll take it back.
was set up to try to alleviate some of the impact the homeless were having on the public sector or public right-of-way, specifically City Hall down in Pomona. And it did take care of that. I'm not sure what the status of the armory in Pomona is currently, but for those that are not aware, the armory was converted to a shelter for homeless in Pomona for some time. And that was with the intent that was expressed here by council members that if we could provide a place for them to spend the night, then they don't have right to camp out in the public sector. That happened in Pomona, and I was wondering if you knew what the impact there was and what are we going to do here in regards to either providing them an overnight place, whether because of the weather is so terrible or because for the purpose of eliminating or avoiding them from using the public right.
Before we respond,
Back to me. Yes, sir.
I've put him in a very difficult spot. I don't believe our plans have yet focused on the city standing up housing for the homeless.
Winter shelters.
And I have not heard of that in some years. So that's why I'm comparing it to the armory of Pomona, because we fell away from that, and that seemed to have been the key to at least enforcing them
there are still available winter shelters in the area, but there's less and less facilities that want to take on that responsibility. Like some that used to decided to opt out. As far as Pomona, I can't really speak on their situation. I would be doing them injustice, but I know they built a new homeless shelter. The Armory was temporary until they built a shelter, and I drive by it frequently, so I know that it's there. What a shelter does is allow you to enforce the law based on the Boise decision. So I'm sure that in that regard, it's beneficial for them helping in that regard. But as far as how if it's getting homeless people permanently off the street, I don't have those numbers for you.
So why is that piece missing in our providing that piece of shelter so that we can insist on them leaving our streets and parks and alleys, food for less, Beta Brothers over? You don't have it. Right. Well, they provide transport. The faith community church, they built it. A lot of there. They built it. The city council rezoned industrial over by a decade.
Who would you like to go over the poll results?
All right, we're gonna turn to the results.
Okay, so coming in number one is expanding mental health services. Coming in second place is mental health and unhoused population. Number third is securing external funding. Number four is partnering with area cities to address the homelessness issues. And number fifth, and coming in last, is reduce single day homeless count census.
All right, we ready for the next topic? Enhance city image. We're not directly contracting with them. We're not. I'm sorry.
And they provide to the many homeless mental health service. But yeah, what connections, where's the next, the city and the services that we're illustrating here on this?
I'll just comment on that. We have a mental health worker from the Department of Mental Health that's assigned to our HOPE team, and we contract directly straight through them to get homeless people placed when they need services, mental health services. Not just homeless people, but it's that resource is available for all of our residents here in West Covina. No.
Bill.
Put on the annual budget. You said the website. Could you go to the website and walk us through how we I like to provide information in writing instead of just words in the air.
Well, we would welcome your words at this meeting. We would welcome in writing. I want to get through these goals, and then I'm happy to stay after and talk to you about how you can provide your comments.
Other people might be interested in how to use the website to provide input on what we're talking about tonight.
Right. We're using some different instruments to try to
might be
solicit opinion.
For other people.
One is on the website. Tonight we're here to be in some kind of dialogue and to talk about the goals that are presented. And I'm happy to stay after class and talk about other ideas too. Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to enhance city image and effectiveness.
And then we're going to activate the poll, so while you discuss, people can submit it, because this one's going to take a little bit of time.
We've got, 17 or 18 ideas under this category. We would welcome your comments. You've got an ad. We run a graffiti program, but you're saying it should be articulated and added. Thank you. Jerry.
I'm a little perplexed on, just in general. A lot of the stuff that, especially in enhanced city image and effectiveness, is already in process or being done.
You're right.
Okay.
One of the conversations we had when we were working on this list was, if it's a work in progress, do we say it's still a goal or do we forget about it? I erred on the side of wanting to say it again. I mean, this bring all city facilities to standard. I talked to my city council about that last year. Really easy to say, really hard to do. We're trying, yes.
We used a lot of COVID money to do that, is what I'm saying.
We've made that a priority. But in this last rainstorm, I've been chasing leaking roofs like a madman.
I was in the public sector.
You understand. I got a leaking roof in my dispatch center, Jerry. And what could go wrong there? I mean, wow. We need to continue to say that this is a priority. Get our facilities to standard. And I don't mean above standard. I just mean to, no water coming through on rainy days, that kind of thing.
Dave, one of the items is remove trash bins from parks.
Well, I'd like to answer that if I may. We have had a real problem with our big 3-yard bins at the parks being a community landfill. People, I can't imagine that it's West Covina people, because in the terms of our franchise, you can request a bulky item pickup every single week and get rid of your refrigerator, your couch, your name, whatever. But those bins have been a blight. And so as the crew can work it into their schedule, they've been taking them out. And I'm telling you, I haven't gotten a single complaint about it. But we've converted them into parking stalls or whatever, and we're going to keep doing it. I just wanted to say that we're doing it, I guess. It seems to be... I wish I knew it was. Yeah. It's... Curbside, yeah. It's also expensive for me to have my crews pick it up. So I think taking out these bins is better. Just out of general interest, I'm going to have the Athens people here in this chamber on February the 9th to talk about the SB 1383, the recycling law, and they're going to have their team here so we can talk to them about that then. Yeah. It's needed. Agreed. What I hear you saying is we need to market it better. Yeah. We do not do a welcome wagon. Some cities do, but we're not doing that now. JD? Agreed. We need to get it on the calendar.
When they come back on February, they're going to talk
You better bring some dates with them. Yeah.
But are they going to address whether they're going to bring it back or not?
Sure, we can do. I'll give them a heads up. We can get them in the ready, set position for that. Brian.
A little bit more about repair the antique fire engine at First Ranch?
That's a piece of the city's fleet that has just been parked and hasn't been working, so we need to get it fixed.
Who owns it?
City does. It's a 1926 Pierce, I think. Well, we have a scattered program. We don't post the streets, no sweeping. That's one of the things that's going to come to the council in March. Question here? Comment? We have one out here on Sunset right outside the Civic Center, like a time and temp sign that tells about upcoming events, etc. Yeah. There's not one there now. This would add one. Well, what's going to come to the council in March is a lot of detail. But what we're talking about is we're talking about moving the city to weekly street sweeping, posting the whole city for no parking street sweeping hours, the cost of that per curb mile to sweep it. The reason behind it is it's the one best management practice we have to get into compliance with the junk going into the storm drains and out to the river and out to the ocean. The cities that... Thanks. The cities that post for street sweeping typically don't give permits for you to park there during the street sweeping hours. They give you a little reminder that costs you some money. We I think that's a different issue. That's not what I'm bringing to the city council. Yeah. Steve, you had a point, question?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so you mentioned no parking. Knowing that the street sweeping is typically done regionally, the question has to be asked, no parking, neighborhood, everything. Or you just say no parking. And then the next day, you're getting a whole lot of neighbors.
It's a topic we're going to talk about when it comes, but I think the thinking is you'd sweep one half and then the other half the other day or the other half of the day. Not the same day at the same time. But yeah, I understand your point, Steve. We wouldn't want to... I hear you. Yeah, I understand. Any other comments in this category? We ready to...
Any other submittals for the poll, or can we close it? Yeah, okay.
We have a contract with National. We're going to bring Athens in on February 9th and talk to them about SB 1383, the implementing of that program. Correct. It's not. That's not a part of the conversation at this moment. It could be, but it's not. It could.
Before Paulina stops the polling. Okay. My priorities are.
Oh, no, it's still going. We're going to give you a couple more
My
seconds.
priorities are enhance B and C. I know most of the stuff on the list is being done, but
The centennial birthday. We have a number of centennial birthday events.
That is it. That's M. That's M that you're asking for, working with Caltrans. Oh, we apologize.
My mistake. I'm sorry. Those are two different things. The Caltrans freeway and the Caltrans off-ramps are a disgrace. And so when I say work with Caltrans, it's to try to motivate them to do their job better. It's very embarrassing. Lisa, I'm going to get it. Going to replace the battery, change the oil, put tires on it, get it running. It's a parade vehicle. Almost never. We did. The antique fire engine is parked at Hearst Ranch. It's part of their interpretive program. When school kids go through there, they look at the Model T car and the antique pumper engine. It's an old vehicle, but it's rotting in place. So if you don't spend money to keep it running, it'll... Yeah, it's a city fleet problem. It is not. It
drives around as part of the union. So union members own it as the union logo on the side. But it's not city brand. So it is, I just want to make sure we're talking about the right.
Did everyone submit?
Jerry has a point.
Steve is correct. They've told me the same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's updated on our end. I know it's a long one, so we appreciate you taking the time.
Yes. We're going to deliver at least one, probably two different paving projects in the coming year. To determine which streets get paved, we're going to update the pavement management program. It's a system where all the streets get evaluated for condition and ranked. The goal would be you'd want, on average, all your streets to be like score a 70 out of 100. We've got streets now, a number of them that are like a 52 and, in the danger of alligator cracking into, not being a street anymore. In my opinion, we could probably spend twice as much as we're now spending on the pavement management program. But first, we're going to come up with a plan, and then it'll be able for people to look on the website, type in an address, see when it's going to come up on the program. And then the question will be, how much money, how many resources can we allocate to keep that number up to a 70? I think we could probably spend twice what we're now spending on our streets to keep them intact. Well, when that pavement management comes forward, we're going to talk about that. But worst first is not the best pavement management program you can devise. Because if you can, I'm sorry. There's 3 ways to pave streets. You can slurry coat them. You can, in different grades, you can chip seal, you can slurry seal, you can fog seal. You can do asphalt cap overlay where you grind and put a cap on it, or you can rebuild. Rebuild is the most expensive thing you can do, but you have to have a balanced program. So when we redo the pavement management program, that comment would be welcome and pertinent, and you can express your desire as to how those monies get prioritized and spent. So that's underway right now, and it'll come to council first quarter of this year.
In 2021, Dave, you said that my neck of the woods would be in 23, 24.
Yeah, we had a schedule.
We had a schedule. Now it sounds like we're redoing the schedule.
We're redoing the schedule.
Invite you to have tea on my street anytime. And I can't get my councilman, oh, he's not here, he left. I can't get my councilman down my street, but I invite you to come see my street.
Thank you. I
make great tea.
I
don't want to be postponed again on the schedule, and I'll send you some pictures in a minute of my couldn't take the coat back down the street. The wheels would fall off.
got you down in the pave my street category. I'm with you.
On one side of my street, I have no
I'm not proud of the way the streets look, and I love paving streets. Yes, sir. The question is there a pothole program in addition to the pavement management program? There is. And in this last rainstorm, I supplemented it using the city services agreement with the County of Los Angeles. We're running the streets and evaluating, and they're sending pothole crews for me because we just got so far behind on the potholes. All right, ready for the results?
Yes. So number 1 came in with working with Caltrans to clean on the on and off ramps. Second place, bring all city facilities to standard. Number 3 is the annual street paving program, followed by the traffic signal maintenance contract. Number 5 is enhanced recreational and park opportunities. Number 6 is the city sewer collection system. I think I can read it better that way. 7th is enhanced communication to our residents, followed by increasing our capital improvement projects throughout the city. Number 9, making the community more verdant, removing the trash bins from the parks. Tied at 10 is removing trash bins from the parks and a precise plan for the new fire station 1. Tied at 12th is the master plan of street trees and the replacement of bus shelters throughout the community. Also tied at 14 is active transportation plan and establish no overnight parking areas in the city. Coming in at 16th is the weekly street sweeping schedule. 17th is install a reader board for the Sportsplex. 18th is prepare the annual State of the City report with the centennial birthday at 19th, and the last one at 20 is the repair the antique fire engine. So,
other things to add to this list? Other ideas we haven't heard or thought of? Things that are on your mind? Anybody? What we're trying to do, Bill, is come up with projects in this category, and I'm not sure we can decide them all tonight or whatever, but I would appreciate it if people could have other ideas here and they want to share them. I would welcome that. Right. I think we've got 6 more categories. The good news is they're not all this long. The next one was maintain good intergovernmental relations. Talk about keeping regulatory compliance with the ever-changing state and federal regulations. We suggest that we pursue grants and partnerships, reinforce the library's role in the community as a civic and cultural center, and actively participate in the COG.
And there is a discrepancy. So A is keep regulatory compliance with changing state and federal regulations. B is pursue external partnerships and grants. C is reinforce the library's role in the community. And then D is actively participate in the San Gabriel Valley of Council.
Dave, could you expound on the COG? Why it might be important to actively participate in that?
The Council of Governments in our region, it's the San Gabriel Valley COG, really emphasizes a regional approach to regional problems. So all of these issues we've been talking about tonight, stormwater management or homeless or housing, all get discussed there first. Typically what they do is they push solutions out to these planning areas, and they make grants available, typically on a partnership basis, for local governments to take advantage of these regional solutions. I know we've been participating. We've had a council member who, Tony Wu, who's been very good about attending every single one of those meetings and reporting out as to what the topics are. I know our newest council member who's here tonight has also been participating most recently on some of the housing aspects. I think to come up with regional solutions, it's really important that we continue to be a part of that.
There used to be a regional organization called SCAG. That morphed into COG.
This is a piece of SCAG. Yes, sir. SCAG is the Southern California Association of Governments.
Did everyone submit their results? I don't know if we should close it. Okay, we'll wait a little bit longer. Oh, we haven't closed it yet. Do you want to refresh your page? See if that helps.
Yeah. Bless your heart. I know you are.
Were you able to submit? Oh, were you able to submit? Sorry. Okay. All right, we're going to close it then.
We got good news yesterday about a $2.6 million grant to improve pedestrian safety at 21 intersections with no local match. So we're really encouraged by it. That was one of Letty's big priorities last year at budget time. She said, get more grants, be more aggressive about going after some of these federal monies. That one's on the tail of the $7 million that Congresswoman Napolitano got us in the federal budget bill. So we're doing pretty well so far this year. First month isn't even over, and we've gotten some good news a couple of times.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Maybe there it goes. There it goes. Okay. So number 1 is pursue external partnerships and grants. Second is actively participate in the San Gabriel Council of Governments. Number 3 is keep regulatory compliance. And then coming in last in 4th place is reinforce the library's role in the community as a civic and cultural center.
No, it's also available for those online.
So we'll move on to Chief Fiscal Sustainability.
We had 5 there: maintain fiscal health, promote employee relations, update the personnel rules, employ known principles of risk management, and make changes in the way city conducts its business, ensuring the needs of the city are met.
Dave, for me, there's 2 that are missing First of all, this is a huge and important topic. I mean, I was in this council chamber a few years ago when Councilman Warshaw said, you know, we're about 24 months from bankruptcy, unquote. We've been there. So the two things that I see missing, one is small, the other is large. I'll start with the small one. The small one is a suggestion, a specific objective to put the Sportsplex under private management. I've been to every Big League Dreams since they've been reopened, at least once to each of them. They're thriving. Ours is not. We're not even close to thriving. And there are private enterprises like Big League Dreams. That's in their wheelhouse, no pun intended. And I think that would be a step in the right direction. So that's the smaller one. The larger one is recognizing that when you look at the current budget document online, 75% of our general fund is police and fire. In the past, when we've added budget amendments, we've been as high as 83%. 83% of our general fund solely on two services. Vital services, ones we all appreciate, but there's infinitely more to a city that all of us want to live in than police and fire. Those solutions are known, they're not popular, they're not easy, but I would really appreciate it if the city would make a goal to begin to address long-term financial stability with respect to the proportions of our budget that go to police and fire. And we've got the longer-term issue that you solve over time, which is we're paying for more retirees than we have active employees on the payroll. Those three, police, fire, and retirees, it's unsustainable. And that's touched on nowhere in this particular objective.
And to add to what Brian just said, our city problem is related to a national problem. I've heard sirens so much more than I've used to. I think the calls to the police and fire department are going to increase 20 or 30% in the next 12 months, just like they did the last 12 months. I think public health is declining, and the city's going to receive a lot more fiscal pressure from the fire and police department in the next, I'm not a psychic, but it's just common sense that police and fire is going to be more expensive in the next 12 months because of public health decline. So the letter that I'm drafting, that's why I wanted to see the city website and how to post this, because when you mentioned it, the Rainbow Donuts gathering, I've got the letter half written, and I just want to know how to.
Okay, we'll get to that. I promise.
And I think the rest of the audience would be interested in that tool, so they can benefit from not just me personally, but anyway, police and fire is going to cost more in the next 12 months. I'm not a genius, and it's pretty obvious that that's going to be a pressure.
Bill, I appreciate you always come and share your thoughts. I would say this is a tool we're using tonight to try and get people to talk about priorities. This isn't the only tool. You could write a letter, and that would be welcomed as well. Okay. Thank you. Jerry.
I actually brought this for an example for you of what I'm talking about. And it goes to make changes in the ways the city conducts business. This is a staff report from 2018. And we residents complain a lot. The staff report actually has when there were events. I would like to see the city go back to doing this. What they did when they did special event expenditures and revenues, and this is not new to the city. I mean, they're just not doing it. They costed out, or they estimated out what the event cost was, the staff cost, if police and fire were needed. The only thing I would change in this template would be I'd put police and fire on both, all the way through. I think that would stop some of the public records requests. I think it's transparent, we would know it's our money, what's being subsidized, what's not. This is really very informative and very clear. So I'd like to have that considered.
Thank you. Steve?
But it has a lot to do with not only was it the lowest here, if you pull the city into the 7 people, you're going to find it's probably the lowest in general. And we're playing that on this list. And residents are looking at the money. Basically, what it is.
Thank you.
Did everyone submit their results? Okay, no worries. I'm just checking.
Let Lisa talk first. I mean, good point. I think the city should always consider options in service provision. Most of our attention in the sportsplex has been in remedying the decrepit, run-down conditions that we had with the previous landlord-tenant that was there. It was not good. Fire protection systems, methane monitoring systems, roofs, the condition of the fields. Everywhere you pointed your finger, you needed to spend several $1,000s. We're getting it up to standard. I don't know if you've been up there lately, but the fields are looking pretty good. We got 4 really good and 2 to go. And then once we begin to open it up after a period of field rest that we're in now and opportunity, we'll begin to program it again and get more utilization. We also need to bring back the restaurants, which have not been open for years now. But I think it's always a consideration at budget time as to whether that should or shouldn't be something the city does, and those comments would be welcome then. We're at the very beginning part of preparing the budget that takes effect July 1st. So your timing is pretty good with that suggestion.
Okay, we're going to be closing the poll unless anyone else. Okay.
My position as a business manager in the city, going through construction, our construction company had glowing accolades for working with the city and how fast you responded and how well everyone worked together.
Wait, could you say it again?
Yes.
I didn't hear you.
Louder. Yes, I can say it louder. But then when there's a rumor on Facebook that Trader Joe's may come back.
Simply not true.
Okay. There's that rumor. Do you see how many people would like that to come to fruition? And why can't we be a nice business partner with these entities? Why do we have such a tarnished reputation out there with doing business? And that comes from me as a citizen, but not from me as a business placeholder. We have a bad image for whatever reason, deserved or undeserved. People don't want to come to West Covina and do this.
Okay, good point. I don't know where that idea about Trader Joe's came from. It was complete news to Paulina and Dave and the team at City Hall. We would welcome them, but we're not processing an application from them, and we know people at Trader Joe's.
Me as a private citizen, you send me out of the city to shop all the time, and that breaks my heart. I leave the city, I go to San Dimas, where I can hit the stores that I need to hit, including grocery stores, including DuPont stores, including Trader Joe's and Target. It's all right there. And
Sherry, I'm telling you, we would welcome Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. We would welcome them, but they are not pursuing a location in West Covina. If they were, I would get them building permits so fast they get a headache. It's not even in the conversation right now. I'd be happy to work with them. I know people that work there. Christmas, my son-in-law works for Trader Joe's. It's not like we are against Trader Joe's. We're not. They were here 2-3 decades ago.
Yes, and they got in a pissing match with the city. I was here. I know the details. And we let that go and be a good partner for these businesses. Why do you send your citizens somewhere else?
Yeah, good point. We're issuing a lot of building permits. I forget the number, but last year I think it was something like 4,000 building permits, and I get A+ reports from the people that do business with us to invest private capital in this city. We get high marks. I'm not that fancy. I live here and I shop at Stater Brothers, but God bless Trader Joe's. If they wanted to come to town, I would be happy to meet with them anytime, day or night, to make that happen.
So you know that's an active rumor.
I know it's a rumor. I don't know where it came from. Can we? Yeah.
That's part of Goal 7.
I know they're going to present the tallies, but I would like to say this. Maybe the city needs to be more intentional and more deliberate about business attraction and retention. The mall is owned by an investment group from Israel, a retiree group, and they're not now processing plans with the city. Maybe they don't have the money to do so. But there are options. Maybe the city could come up with a specific plan of its own and then work with end users to try and get it. We know we're going to have to do an EIR. We're going to have to do a new traffic study. We know several of these things are required before anybody could come in there. That Seritage that now owns Sears has listed it for sale. If you want to spend $20-some million, it could be yours tomorrow. But I don't think that mall that was always a regional attraction and a bright spot is ever going to be what it was. It's going to be something completely different. I think you're going to have to factor in some live work, some entertainment, some housing to bring it back.
What is the thought on bringing 2 Chick-fil-A's to the city within a mile of the park?
Well, they applied. They met the city ordinances. We expedited their permits, and they're under construction. It's a function of the free market. And you know, it's not what it was. You're not going to get what maybe everybody dreams of, a white linen tablecloth, a Ruth Chris, whatever. That's not how people eat these days. In California today, half the meals are eaten out, and most of that is fast service. And that's why Chick-fil-A came in, because there's a strong market for it. But it wasn't that the city picked that flavor of restaurant over some other flavor. That wasn't part of our thinking. If let me just say this, I'm not meaning to argue. If you want to open a restaurant, I'll expedite your building permits. But we're not dictating which restaurants come in commercially zoned sites. JD, I'll get to you after this, please.
Okay, I can be loud. I don't need a mic. This is a report that came to me from a newsletter that I subscribe to in Covina, and I got this today. And it has information about what goes on in their city. And it says, although new owners took over Big League Greens on Fairfield Ranch Road in Chino Hills last May, promising $1.8 million in upgrades, The outward appearance hasn't changed much. Councilman Brian Johns said during Tuesday's council meeting that the exterior looks pretty shabby and the landscaping isn't good either. He asked for a report to find out what's going on. So they're not any better off than we are. You're going to end up probably having to take it over. There you go.
Okay, JD. Thank you.
Advertise ourselves as business-friendly West Covina. COVID hit, and monies came through that could have helped the small businesses. And the impression that the city gave was that they abandoned those small businesses. The money was earmarked predominantly for the city's use and not to assist those small businesses that are tax collectors for the city. How are you? You're saying that you purposely blah, 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 commit to them, but when the time is here, the city is problem.
Thank you. JD, I know you made that comment when we were in this room talking about the utilization of the Federal Recovery Act monies. I heard you, and in this room, in that moment, I think what I said to you was, I'm prioritizing these things because I'm the city manager. And we had a whole host of things which were embarrassingly bad that needed to be brought back. Infrastructure of the city, a new ladder truck, new pumper engines, the microwave system that drives the communications, on and on and on. And in that moment, there were other federal programs that private businesses could have availed themselves on. You were heard, but it wasn't taken. It wasn't decided in that direction, but I can promise you that your thoughts were absorbed and listened to in that moment. It's just that the priority was decided in another direction.
But I'm saying it in the context of bringing businesses to West Covina, such as Farmers Market or whichever market. When we send the impression out there that, hey, we want your business, but if things get stuff gets going,
You didn't ask me why, but I'd like to explain if I can, because it's come up a couple times. We have to take care of the things that only the city can do. And in that moment, we were dispatching fire equipment that was breaking down on the way to calls. Not acceptable. So when we use our money to buy new pumper engines, that's why. And that's not things that you're going to get private business to come in and say, oh, shucks, let me buy you a new ambulance or let me pave your streets. Isn't happening. So I think we made the right decision, and we have to keep the infrastructure of government going forward. Well, we've talked about the Field of Dreams, and I'm open to more conversation about it. I am.
Poll results are up.
Okay. Tally is.
Number 1 is maintain and monitor the city's fiscal health. The second one is make changes in ways the city conducts its business. Number 3, maintain and promote employee relations. Number 4, employ known principles of risk management. And coming in last and in fifth is update the city personnel rules, including use policies.
Other thoughts to add to this list beyond those we've already heard? I heard Brian say, I'll look at alternatives for Sportsplex. I heard Jerry say cost out special events. I heard a lot of good comments, but there are other things that people haven't shared that they want to share.
You know, the category of costing out special events, why don't you do the annual
Okay. Thank you for that. The February is when the city's actual 100th birthday is. That event's been planned. We've signed contracts. That boat has sailed. Everything excepting the... Okay, I think that's a good idea. Thank you for that. You ready for the next category?
Yes.
All right.
So the poll is up, and it's a well-planned community.
Comprehensive rewrite the city zoning ordinance. We got a $500,000 state grant to do that. Update the permit software. That's work that's in progress. A rental inspection program, which is something that's been talked about but never brought back for consideration. So that would be a new goal. Well, it was... Thank you. It was brought up as a council request item, and it would be a program where the city would inspect rental properties for decent, safe, and sanitary, and you'd have to pay as a landlord an inspection fee to certify that the property met minimum standard.
So somebody from the city would have eyes on all rental property.
Correct. Through a permit process, like any other permit.
Is there a program like that ran anywhere in San Gabriel Valley?
There's a strong program in La Habra. I'm sure there's other examples too. And when that report comes in, we'll talk about pluses and minuses of that approach and the possible need for it. New housing element. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone had a comment?
I'll be speaking for Elsie Messman. Elsie lives in the south part of LA where they have maintenance districts. I live between the northwest part of the city. I live between the 10 freeway and Baldwin Park High School.
Right.
My taxes pay for, if there is a homeless encampment that needs to be cleaned up, it's already been paid for. If there's a crime scene, it's already paid for. Elsie and the people on the south side of the city that have maintenance districts, they charge the maintenance districts for those things that I get for free. How is that possible? Second of all, when the maintenance districts were created, there was a vote taken about what those people agreed to pay, have the maintenance districts pay for. And things have been added since then. Those people never agreed to pay for those things. I think the original agreement between the citizens, what they voted to charge themselves for, and the city has to be reviewed. And you can't say you can't find the document. Maintenance districts were agreed to by the taxpayers that pay into those districts. And they're paying for things that I get for free. How is that possible?
Well, I think that's what this says. It says update and audit the landscape maintenance districts. I think it's a step back from it to holistically and comprehensive look at what services are required there for brush clearance, for tree trimming, for all of those things that those open space type areas require, and then determine, now that we know what they cost based on an audit, how do you pay for it? Given a choice, I think most people would say, I don't want to pay, but the results out there are pretty dismal. I think everybody can see that we're going to have to do something differently, that this isn't working. So we're going to take a step back and look at it. The city's zoning ordinance is the bylaws of how you build in this town. You know, whether you can put a gas station in a residential zone and what the rules are for building a new house and all of that kind of stuff. It hasn't been comprehensively looked at since the mid-'70s, literally, I think, 1976. And so this is a complete rewrite of the zoning ordinance that would update it to current standards.
Sure. So state is now allowing residential uses in commercial areas. And so the city didn't have any design standards for residential and commercial areas. And so the zoning put those guidelines in place so that there would be standards for the residential developments within, let's say, where the West Covina villages or some of the shopping centers in our community. So that's the one that took effect this month, and then we are looking at doing our development code update that we are actively working on right now and hoping to finalize and bring before the city council for adoption this year, by the end of the year.
A lot of the interesting conversation about, excuse me. A lot of the interesting conversation, I need some water. I don't know, maybe something stronger. A lot of the interesting conversation about what's allowed in what zone, what's an accessory dwelling unit, can residential be built on dead and dying commercial areas, that interesting conversation is happening in Sacramento. And so what we're doing at our level is catching up our standards to comply with state law. We have had meetings. We had very low turnout. Bill was there. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. We didn't have great turnout. We did have some participation. The state is really pressuring local government to come up with new standards to match their requirements.
Did everyone submit their poll results? Okay.
Steve. Steve, two different plans. The general plan, which was done in that time zone or that era, actually really well done. Whatever work was done on that, it's a sound document. But this zoning ordinance implements the general plan, and it says specifically about lot sizes and lot coverage and floor area ratios and those kinds of details that builders have to follow when they submit for building permits. State law has already completely flipped the zoning of this town on its head.
Yes.
We've been doing community meetings, and we'll be doing some more because it's a really important document, and it's really critical that people know what's going on and what's proposed. Well, yeah, I appreciate you always come, so I don't know how you happen to miss those. There are people in this room that were at those meetings because I was there. So,
I mean, the state law that you just mentioned. The state law that you just mentioned. The city has to get together with the League of Cities and push back these terrible state laws that are coming down. They need to be met with pushback, with lawsuits and injunctions, and the League of Cities can. Cooperate with West Covina and do something about that. Anyway, I want to go back to item H again, audit landscape. I drive down Cameron and this is the winter time, and most of the deciduous trees, the leaves fall off. They look dead, but they're not dead. They're fine. But there's this evergreen tree on the northeast corner of the South Hills Country Club, which is tall, and it's obviously dead, and it's been there for 6 months. It could fall over and hit a car and, city liability. And on the same topic, on Cortez Park, probably 20 yards from the fire department there's a same subject. There's a tall evergreen tree that's obviously dead right next to the parking lot. So, on the subject of landscape audit, the maintenance, I just wanted to report those two tall evergreen dead trees.
Thank you, Bill. we've got about 25,000 trees in our tree fleet, and we have about $1 million a year we spend on tree maintenance. We're on a 5-year grid cycle, and I will follow up on those trees that you mentioned because sometimes the grid cycle has to be preempted if we've got a problem child. But we have an active tree program.
Yeah, in Claremont, there was a rainstorm. A tree fell over on a car and killed college students about 20 years ago. We don't want that.
Yeah, heaven forbid. The Glendora Business District has been needing some attention. And so I think there's a couple of efforts that have been discussed. One of them is beautification to wrap the trees or light the trees and to do some general cleanup, to paint the light poles and to paint the trash cans and to just spruce it up. So that's a fix-up project. Lisa. That's a new planning study. It's an effort whereby we take a step back and look at all 16 parks, talk about what are the needs of the community for all kinds of park uses. How many pickleball courts do we need? How many soccer fields? How many softball fields? How many Little League diamonds? And then where do you put them? And so it's a comprehensive approach to look at planning for the active recreation needs of the community. That's a good question. I know we just redid the courts at Del Norte, and I said as long as we're painting them, paint pickleball lines on it. And I don't know how many others besides that, but I'll find out, Sherry. I'm sorry, I don't know. And me with bad knees, I should know that. Let's go here and back to Lisa. Ollie, you want to speak? I saw Ollie, councilman, raise his hand.
A day for residents. Can you describe the staffing with regard to the existence of a planning director for a master plan to help with organizing all of these efforts to ensure that we implement the master plan in a high quality way, as well as efforts to keep it up once we do move forward with implementation, just for residents' benefit?
I'll try. This idea about the park master plan came from Assistant City Manager Lerma, who is working hard to get all our facilities up to standard, but she's also looking forward with respect to programming. And so this is a additional planning document that would superimpose over the whole community what are the community's desires, and then try and put those parts into all the places. Skate parks is a bad example. We have a skate park now, which isn't much. It's not to standard. It's in an unfortunate location. Maybe we could rethink that and come up with a master plan and then pursue funding for a way to reposition that and to better meet that need. Skaters are a part of the community, and we want to meet the needs of the skaters in addition to the way that we're not now meeting them. And so this is a separate and new planning study that Roxanne would lead with some outside professional assistance to help us answer all those questions as to what are we going to be doing to be an active community and how are we going to be doing it. It is. It would be a City of West Covina plan. Go ahead.
I have a very good friend, Guillermo Reyes, and Guillermo and I grew up in Cyrus Park, which is between Mount Washington and Legion Park. And I asked Guillermo, he's the greatest shortstop I had ever seen play baseball. Hey, is your son as good as you are? He says, Phil, I didn't have sons, I had two daughters. I said, oh, be darned. He said, Phil, that's why I got involved. When the rail yard was sold, the business community of downtown LA wanted a huge industrial complex down there between Broadway and Spring Street, or right by Dodger Stadium. And that community fought for Santa Monica Conservatory business and Cornfield State Park. Guillermo made sure that Title IX said that entity had to spend as much money on girls as they do boys. But still, I made sure there was a softball field put in that park for the girls in the community. The city of West Covina does not have one facility for girls to play softball. All you have to do is look up under Yahoo, West Covina softball, and it says the worst place to ever heard for girls to play baseball. When is the city going to address the needs? Is there a position on the sports council? What is the plan to improve facilities for girls?
Really good point. This park master plan, if we were to have this document prepared and adopt it, would help us answer some of those questions. I know we've got girls playing softball in this town, but are their fields sufficient? I don't think so. We've also got some use of city property that maybe made sense several decades ago. I'm not sure it makes sense going forward. I don't know if anybody's been to the city's equestrian facility, but I don't know. Well, we do. And I know that we've got needs that are unmet. We've got needs for accessible playgrounds. We've got all kinds of active recreation needs that we're not now meeting, and this would be a way for us to come up with a paper plan against which we could measure ourselves and begin to deliver projects.
The case law that you can look up is the La Puente girls versus the city of La Puente. At the time they brought the lawsuit, 3 fields were on public school property. The city of La Puente had only given 1 field of their land to the girls to play baseball. The same setup that we have at Cameron Park. 3 of the fields that are there are on school property. Cameron Park only 1 field is for the girls on city property. They sued. The ACLU won that case. There are 99 different cities that have been sued. Versus girls.
If I could just say this, I was city manager in La Puente for 5 years before I came over here, so I know.
So what I'm saying is, we can express a need, we can do it general. If people don't get grants and loans to build something for our girls.
Well, and I think I agree with you, and I think the way you get grants is to show that you have a plan. It's hard to just say, I need a new skate park, but I wrote the grant for the skate park in La Puente because I had a park master plan and knew where it was going to go and what it was going to look like. And I think that'll help us access other resources and bring those to bear here. I think it's past time for us to do that. Well, dog park. There you go. We've got a need for some dog park. The one we have at Del Norte is kind of sad, but we need to do better. We need to have one where you've got 3 areas: big dogs, little dogs, and rest, and you could rotate through. Yeah, and it needs to be lit, and it needs to be, well, proper, and this one isn't. But once we put out the word that we're looking for ideas about active park uses, this chamber's going to be full. A lot of the sports council people, a lot of the people that aren't now able to avail themselves of the resources we have are going to come out in droves. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. Maybe. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. It's all. Yeah, maybe we could find a way. Lisa, you had a thought before we move off. Okay. Okay. So I don't hear anybody against the park master plan idea. Are there ideas that you want to see us entertain in the well-planned community category? Things that we haven't thought of that are on your mind, or needs that are unmet? That's a work in progress. I think the city council is moving in the direction of a demand response system instead of a fixed route system, because they're a little tired of seeing those monies go for ghost buses. But it's probably going to be based on this test run of Uber subsidies, something that subsidizes a taxi cab ride rather than runs a bus around that nobody's on. But I think that's a work in progress. I don't think we need to make that a new goal, because it seems to be happening. We done voting? Did we recap these? I've forgotten.
No, I don't know if anyone wants to. I'll do the top three. Comprehensive revision of the city's zoning ordinance is number 1. Number 2 is update permit software. And then tied at number 3 is create a park master plan, and then update and audit the landscape maintenance districts. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I can go on to the next category, which is expand development opportunities in our community. So I think some of these items were brought earlier when we were discussing the fiscal goal, or achieve fiscal sustainability and financial sustainability. So part of the economic development opportunities would continue to market efforts to expand and retain the business space in our city, to work with property owners to promote development within the community, focus the efforts on economic recovery and tourism throughout continued relationship building, research, and advocacy of development, reinforce West Covina's brand as a great place to live, work, play in the San Gabriel Valley, establish an assessment district on Glendora, which is tied into establishing a business improvement area for Glendora Avenue, approve a master plan for Plaza West Covina. As Dave mentioned, that mall is it's not going to be the same as what it is now. Malls are changing. Seritage property where Sears is on the market for sale. And so as there are various property owners for the mall, the city would like to see a comprehensive plan for the future development of the entire mall site, so that it's not hodgepodge, and that the development that goes on there is connected and does make sense. The mall is within the downtown planning code, which Steve Bennett alluded to earlier. And so that's an area that we want to encourage higher density, and making it more pedestrian friendly. And so that would really be done through a master plan. The other is to consider all options for the development of the city-owned parcels at the former BKK landfill. And I think that covered it. So did anyone have questions? Oh, sorry, Kathy speaking. So that's something that, or I don't know, sorry, Dave, if you wanted to answer.
Well, in that area, there's a number of needs. And I think that the answer to that is that decision will be made by the businesses in that area. I don't know yet what they're interested in. We've met with them a couple of times. The first meeting I was at, their immediate interest was in safety and security. And there were some conversation around, can we hire a supplemental private security force to deal with some of the people that are sleeping on our stoops? And so we talked to them, we went back, are you interested in contributing financially in any dollar amount? We got a no, and it didn't go anywhere. So if they're interested, we're going to talk to them, and if they're not interested, we won't. I think it's really important to say, I feel the need to say it, it's up to them. And I know everybody wants to weigh in and help them decide. It's their decision. And if they want to plant fancy flowers in baskets, if they want to have more better trees, if they want to try and make the area look verdant, if they want to have a uniform sign program, there's a number of tools available. They all cost money. And I think the businesses in that area are going to have to agree on some kind of a plan. But portions of that street look pretty sad to me. And I think we need to do better. Yeah. Yeah. The absentee owners seem to be carrying the day. There's a lot of good examples in this county about active business improvement districts, and the owners have gotten together and figured it out. So far, they really wanted the city to do lots of things. It was, forgive me what I'm about to say, it was kind of a Chamber of Commerce relationship. It was like their ideas and our money. I'm like, really? It didn't make sense to me. And so they're going to have to develop a community will in that neighborhood to do something differently or better. And I don't think it's going to be imposed by the city. They did want us to host more events over there. We've been doing that. It's been met with some success. One of the first events we had over there, I think it was 4th of July, some of them said, well, we told our employees they could have the day off, we're not going to be open. I could have just, the sound you hear is me biting my tongue. Like, really? We're going to have a parade and all these things, and you're not even going to be open? So they've got to get behind a plan. But repeating for emphasis, it has to be their plan. So it's not going to be from City Hall. It's going to be from their desires and their willingness to contribute. I don't know. We'll pass the hat or we'll put it on the tax bill. The mechanics of it aren't hard, but there has to be the will to do it. Can be 2 times the business license, can be added to your property taxes, can be a few $100s, could be a few $1,000s. But I think unless they see a straight line benefit, they're not going to get behind it. And so in the meantime, we're going to keep trying to drive business to that area by improving what the city does there. We're going to have some of our centennial events over there and close off certain streets and leave other streets open. We're going to look at a nighttime farmers market festival on a weekly basis to help drive business to that area. There is some leadership there, but it's been a little fragile. So we're going to partner with them and see what they want to do.
Can you tell us what's happening with the development on Citrus on the north side of the freeway?
Yeah, can you talk about that? The Amazon
Sure. Are you
grocery?
talking about where the former Mazda dealership was? The loaded, the paint store. Okay, so that corner. Yeah. That is, the city has been working with the property owner in moving the project along. It unfortunately is outside of our control. They've been getting the necessary inspections to keep the permit active, which is good. That means they are doing work. But as far as construction goes, it's in the hands of the property owner.
And so as long as they're pushing dirt and keep the permit.
As long as they're getting the necessary inspections within a certain time frame, the permit stays active. It is going to be a new shopping center. There's going to be a drive-through restaurant, and a grocery store is going to anchor the center, and then there's going to be some inline retail stores. That's a rumor that the city cannot confirm. At this time, we're not at liberty to announce the name of the tenant. Did everyone submit their results? Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
I was just curious how
Well, a couple things we're doing. The question was, what are we going to do to reinforce the brand? I think that the mark and the image is pretty important. So we've been doing a little bit of that. I don't know if you've seen the ribbon signs at the city entrances that say West Covina. We've well, that one's the 100th anniversary, but the ones that are on the pillar posts as you enter on the arterial streets, we've been hitting the refresh button and putting in new there, because the ones that were there had been there since I don't know when, and they were blistered and worn out and sunburned. And so we're replacing all of those. We're working on a plan now for the monument entry signs to give a good image when you come in, and we're going to try and reinforce that all the way around. We're working on a cleaner, more modern image. We don't want the image to be, when you get off, you just see a hodgepodge of signs that had been there. Right. All right, we good with that one?
I believe so. So
right.
Top two are focus efforts of the city's Community and Economic Development Division, work with property owners to promote development, and number three is reinforce West Covina's brand.
All right. 7 down, 2 to go. Number 8, an important one, an accessible community. We're recommending as a priority that the city establish a disability advisory commission, that we consider implementing some best practices as recommended by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, that we review our best practices in disability employment, that we make sure that our development codes and current practices are in good order, and that we establish and implement an ADA transition plan. We have some funding for these things we've identified. In the CIP program, I think we set aside, how much? $1 million for the ADA transition plan. So I think we'll be able to show some results in this category in the coming year. Are there items that we've forgotten to think about here, or suggestions, or we're ready to have a vote about them in terms of prioritization? Oh, I looked at those. I know right now we're not current with our personnel rules or our hiring practices or our workplace. Personnel rules has been a priority. They haven't been adopted or updated in this century. So a lot of state laws and a lot of federal laws have changed. And we talked earlier about suing ourselves to get girls' softball fields. If somebody were to sue us in some of these areas, it wouldn't even be a contest. We'd just say, how can I pay? And so we just need to get contemporaneous with what the laws are. We think we can make good gain against this, because most of these are not carving new ground, right? We're not plowing a new field here. It's just adopting things that are recommended in the literature. Okay. Well, that might be a good project for our newly formed Disability Advisory Commission, Bill. And we'll fly a notice of vacancy and you can apply. How's that?
Did everyone submit? We can close the poll then.
Okay, strong support for establishing a commission. Strong support for reviewing a list of best practices and implementing them. Oh, best practices has now leaped to first place. The most amazing thing about this business is, I'm sorry. I think the most amazing thing about this business we're in is the extent to which known best practices aren't followed. And I agree with you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can look at literature. You can look at what has been done in other places. And I wouldn't say you could plagiarize it. You could have it reflect West Covina, but you could also have it reflect state and federal law. So I think this is an area where we could and should be doing much better. I think we need to talk about abilities, not disabilities. I mean, we beat our head against the wall trying to recruit and retain employees. It's really hard right now to keep a labor force intact. It's getting to the point with our police officers. We're competing in a labor market where other towns are offering cash bonuses of $7,000, $10,000, $25,000 for police officers. We're trying hard to keep staffed in our dispatch center. But maybe we could look at different ways of reviewing that job content and attracting people who could be very good at it. It's an area where, we had in our CIP this funding for the ADA transition plan, but we haven't had it rise to the top. But I think it's probably time for us to do that. Okay, ready for the last one? I've worn out my audience. Steve, I like this stuff, so, come on. A creative and active community. Well, these seats are tired. Yeah. 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 Taylor House is an unused asset. It's a beautifully renovated building that is now got peeling paint for want of people programming it. But I think this is an area where we could do a lot better. Go ahead.
I've lived here since 1979, and lost contact with that 9 years ago. My daughter found her on history.com. She lives in Bethel, Connecticut, outside of Denver. She was seriously ill in July. I flew to see her. She passed away in October, and I flew back. And I asked my niece, I said, this place is just so historical. It'll take me. She takes me to town about 2 feet in Bethel, Connecticut. It's not a place that we don't have any reason to be proud. Our kids have no understanding of what created the city. And it should be taught in civics. How we better promote the city we live in, pay taxes. If we don't need to teach it to our
I think the Historical Society is to be commended for taking leadership on that. I think there's an opportunity for some synergy between the Historical Society and the Hearst Ranch people. Both have important historical collections and the ability to do interpretive work. I mean, Hearst Ranch has a strong partnership with the schools. on the agricultural roots of the community and the interpretive, displays that are in place there. I don't know the future of the Historical Society, but I think it's a conversation that would be worthy to have, and we should be serious about that as a community and not let some of these resources be lost. They should be treasured and honored and preserved. Brian. Got a member of the...
There's two members of the board of the Historical Society here tonight. I'm one of them. Kathy to my left is another. Three, excuse me. Sorry about that. And if you have suggestions, just pull us aside after the meeting. We're happy to receive them. In terms of local education, we have worked with and talked with the West Covina Unified School District. Local students of West Covina Unified learn about our local history in the 4th grade. That's where it's taught. And we've gone ahead and some of us have taken a look at that and provided some suggestions in terms of additional information that could be added. But we're definitely open to suggestions.
Thank you, Brian. Lisa.
Yeah, what Lisa might be referring to on February 6th kicks off an annual poster contest for students of West Covina Unified School District. It's for elementary school students and students up through, help me out, Kathy, 8th grade, right? 8th grade. Yeah, up through 8th grade. They pick a historical property. There's 36 historical properties listed on the city's website, along with pictures and descriptions. They pick one of those and they put together their best representation of that. They can do it on traditional media like crayons and inks and paint, or they can do it on digital media. And contest is from the 6th of February through March 6th, and so it's just about to kick off. Oh, yes, and the award is cold hard cash.
Gotta love that. All right, have we voted on this one, Karen? I hear a volunteer chairman for that committee. Okay, other ideas people want to contribute? Go ahead. Well, we've reinstituted the Discover magazine, so we're going to be doing that in print and via mail. The last one, we had a couple of those die at the post office for want of postage, so we're going to do better. We bring that back, but that's also available online. We do social media pushes and posts. To what effect, I'm not certain. Yeah, that's why we decided to keep with the print Discover as a way to get to everybody's mailbox. Well, we've adopted the approach now that we really want to have community-wide events. So the summer concerts, we're not taking them on the road. We're doing them, at a centralized location. I don't want to see the city get into dividing the town up into 5 districts by the amount of money. I just think it'll dilute us. And the purpose of these events is to gather and to celebrate. And so I think we need to be very intentional about that. I'm not against taking it on the road. I know like on some of our zoning hearings, we tried to move it out to some other of our city facilities around town. I don't know if we got any better participation. We never got any participation this good at any of those. But I guess I'm open to it. It seems to be a theme I hear the most on the south side. Yeah. Yeah. I will. I'm going to keep you after class. And before I do that, I'm going to thank everybody for coming tonight. They're welcome to stay too, but I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys coming out for this. It really means a lot to me. I'll ask my the wizard behind the computer here, Lisa. Can I give a compliment before they go? Our finance director, assistant finance director are here. They won an award last week from the Government Finance Office Association for budget presentation. Like, it is the Super Bowl for us. It is as big gets, and we're going to honor her at a council meeting. But we've got a really good infrastructure and a really strong team at City Hall. And thank you, Stephanie.
The question for Mr. Bennett, the question that got the highest number of responses was, how would you rank maintain good intergovernmental relations? For that question, 8. I mean, it's up to everybody to participate, yeah.